Hello and welcome back to the International Journal of Medical Students webinar series, Research Pathways. My name is Dr. Leah Comer, and I'm the host of this series, which features presentations from various editorial members at the IJMS, highlighting their experiences entering and navigating the world of academia, their challenges and triumphs, and advice to future clinician scientists. I am more than happy to welcome our guest for today's episode, Dr. Jorge Gomez. He is a professor of the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Quindío in parasitology and tropical medicine. He is also the founder of the Colombian Association for Medical Students Research. He is ranked 8th in Latin America as the most cited parasitologist and 11th in the Colombian Medical Sciences researchers, according to the 2023 AD Scientific Index. With all of those to be said, thank you so much, Dr. Gomez, for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you, Leah, for the invitation, the opportunity to share with the students about my life experience. I hope this will be helpful for many who have the vocation for research, and we are very eager to have more physician scientists. We are desperately needing more physician scientists. It's very important for medicine.
Yeah, certainly. You're absolutely right. And so we're very excited to hear your presentation today and all the insights that you can provide for us.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Leah, again. And well, I don't know if I can begin to do some presentation and I can tell about what has been my life story in research that begins when I was a student in medicine at the School of Medicine. So I hope the new generations will find the vocation to dedicate this life for research in medicine. So, well, so I please confirm if you are seeing the slides.
Yes, we can see your slides.
Okay, so I have named this presentation "The Stories That Begins with a Book" because what within a book I found the inspiration to dedicate my research life for tropical medicine. And during these years, I had the opportunity, and I was very fortunate to have very wise experience in different aspects of the research. But one of the most important is to be an educator, to be part of the faculty. The first was in Bogota, in the National University, and after I end my formation in France. But then I returned back to the University of Quindío. So there are 30 years of career with possibilities to do not only the research, but also to participate in editorial boards, to be now editor-in-chief of the Infection, that is the official journal of the Colombian Association of Infectious Disease, and also in many international recognized journals. So one of the things I will try also to explain is the need that when we are involved in research, we had to also to give some return back for all the people that have helped us to do our career, to communicate our results. So it's very important to participate in the process of research publication. So we are needing desperately that the researchers be involved in the evaluation of the papers, That is something that is one of the biggest problems we have in the scientific edition of journals. So that is something I want to recommend to all the new generations. It's a responsibility also for with all the people that help us to evaluate our works, but now is the time also to return back by doing and participating in the editorial process of scientific papers. Well, but I want to tell is about why, first of all, I choose the medicine because my first interest was to understand why people become sick, because that is, I think, the best way to help the people and to find also the best treatment for the disease that cause the disease and also are the cause of mortality. But in the specific field of tropical medicine was something that appeared during my formation. So I want to tell how was the way I encountered the tropical medicine during my career, and this was during my formation as at the School of Medicine. So one of the first important thing is to participate in the association of medical students, and I have the opportunity to be part of the founders of the Colombian Association of Medical Students. This was in Barranquilla in 1989. So you can see here the picture of this historical moment. And here, this is me. Well, of course, I was younger at that time. But also, it's interesting to see one of this is the student that invited us to Barranquilla to form the association. And here, today, is one of the most known people in Colombia because he is the national superintendent of health service. So all the people that have problems with this health service write to him. Is a people is he is a person very well known in Colombia, and his name is Sulahi Beltran, and he was who invited us to form this association to students of many parts of the country. And well, now he had a very important responsibility for the health in Colombia. But also, I want to remember my colleague and friend, Dr. Abello, who is now a neurosurgeon and an expert in spine surgery. But one of the most important people in science in this group is the Yanira Corso. She is naming one of the scientific women most influent in Colombia, and she has worked in Harvard and is today one of the scientific authorities in POM disease. She is a genetician, pediatric genetician. So her contributions to this disease has been very important. So this is a signal that is very important to participate in association, because it's also a way to do a networking, first of all, and also to share and to have a network that can be put together all different personalities, different experience, and also different motivation that can help to construct an important career later. One of the first things we do after to form the association was to organize the first Colombian Congress of Research. So this experience was also significant because at that time we invite many important researchers, and they were very kind to accept the invitation of students. but this was very important for us to know and firsthand people, scientific, Colombian scientific, one of the most important Colombian scientific at the time, that was also a significant experience for all the students that we participate during this first Congress. But the most amazing of this is that I back to Colombia and was very surprised that the association is still continue working and doing the meeting, the Congress. And now this year is the 34 years later, this Congress is still continue to be done, and now it's in Bogota. And so this is important to leave new generations that take responsibility and to continue this legacy that is the formation of associations that help to construct capabilities for the students that are part of the association. So the association, the life in association is important because can bring very positive experience, and also, but at the end also is important the friendship that this can create, because you can share with people with the same motivation and inspiration, and to do significant things later. In many times we meet with all members of the association, and always was very significant to share the experience, and also to do new projects together, and later as responsible professionals and doctors and researchers. So this is something that remains for life. Well, but the research pathway needs also inspiration and motivation. So I announced at the beginning that this was possible because one book. What was that book? Was a book about tropical neurology that was written by Dr. Gabriel Toro, who was a neuropathologist that described for the first time the neuropathological lesions in cerebral malaria. This was a classic work that founded all that we know about the physiopathology and the pathological characteristic of cerebral malaria. It's a very cited word. It's a classical word describing how are the lesions in cerebral malaria. But for me, was something that really was shocking to read this at the prologue. This is paradoxical that the best research in tropical medicine is made surrounded by the winter snow in the European Institute of London, Paris, Berlin, and Antwerp. So this for me was a signal, a revelation of that we need to develop, or the need to develop at that time, the research in tropical medicine in our countries, not in the countries that doing the best research was located in place where the tropical disease was not very prevalent. Only they have institutes because the medicine travelers, and also to do the health service for the soldiers. But for a country with tropical disease, it's very important to find the own solution. It's the only way to have a very adapted solution at the problems that are the most important for in the case of tropical medicine for underdeveloped countries, and it's very important to do an own research in this field. So, but it's very curious that I was looking to do my formation in Brazil, and but it was not possible because it was I received a proposal and a fellow, very important, that cover all the expense to do my formation in Antwerpen. So 8 years later, I was in Antwerpen doing my formation in tropical medicine, and was very enrichment experience because I met African doctors, and this was very culturally but also scientifically important, and to share and to exchange all the experience, and also how was the problem in African countries, and again the importance to take in our hands our own problems, not to leave to other countries to do the solutions. So this is what very significant experience, and then I could do during this time a work in molecular epidemiology of tuberculosis. That is an example why we need to do our own research in countries that for in order to find solutions and appropriate solutions to our problems. So this was the first work in molecular epidemiology of tuberculosis. At that time, I was not very conscious of the importance of this work. This was possible because in the institute they had all the tools to do this work, and this work also revealed the problem of resistance and how were the strains of tuberculosis disseminating in a way was not revealed by the classical epidemiological tools. So this was possible because this formation at the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Antwerpen. And then I was my interest was in toxoplasmosis. For that reason, I write to Professor Pinon in Reims, is in the region of Champagne in France, and there I was in the lab of parasitology, and all the days I was doing daily tours between the lab of parasitology was located in the hospital. You can see here all the facilities that have this hospitalary complex. So you can find the pediatric hospital, the cancer institute, the laboratories of immunology, and also the School of Medicine. But I did all my experiments in the Biomedical Research Institute that is in CERN. This is important to know that the proximity between Biomedical Research Institute and the hospital is the best way to do a translational research. So the proximity with basic research groups working with and supporting all the research with fundamentals of tools in biomedical science is important to find then solutions that can be applied in this case in the hospitalary environment. So this is something that is important. It's an example. It is necessary to have a proximity between the biomedical laboratories that are working in fundamental questions and those that are working with the daily problems. So that is the best way to do a translational research, and this is a very good model that is the ideal to do research work in medicine. So at the return of my formation in France, I was 2 years in Bogota and the National University. And then I was recalled by my university, the University of Quindío, that during the last 23 years I has been working, and then I could form a group of research that is interdisciplinary. So in my group, there are not only physicians, doctors, medical doctors, but also chemists, biologists, and even we work with mathematicians, physics, and many professions. But that is the way to do our research in order to have adapted solution for the problems in medicine. Uh, to war in September 2000, and then until this moment, from the first year that in Colombia appeared the classification of growth, my group has been ranked in the top category. So it has been very important to keep this classification because this open for opportunities in work. And my university, we create this center, biomedical center, that where we have facilities to do basic biomedical research. So we have all the facilities to do cell culture, molecular biology, even biochemical, immunology, cell biology techniques, and now we have many equipments that can able to do research and answer fundamental questions in biomedicine. But always we have keep a clinical laboratory that can do also a routine basic laboratory work. So this is important because we keep the connection between the daily problems, the practical problems, and those that are working in more basic with more basic questions. So this interaction, this proximity again is important to have more possibilities that in basic science you can do proposals for to find solutions for the more significant and more prevalent problems in medicine. So I think it's very important to have models. In this case, MD PhD models. There are models of the what is physician scientist, and this editorial in the journal Clinical Investigation, I think is a classical that anyone that is interested in this pathway of the physician scientist should read. So this editorial was by Joseph Goldstein and Michael Brown, and even if it was right in 1997, still vision, still actual. And they were the Nobel Prize in 1985, but they had the characteristic that is the ideal of physician research, physician scientists, because they begin to work in the topic because one passion was the initial clue to begin to work in the problems. In the case was about the cholesterol, and during this pathway of research they pass but many steps of trying to solve the questions, and this is a very good example that is the idealistic of the physician scientists can do. So they in this editorial they describe three basic pathways for the physician scientist. So the first of all is to do a basic research, but in that case, no contact with patients. And the other, that is my favorite, that is the pathway that I follow, is the disease-oriented research, or DOR. And finally, the third pathway is the patient-oriented research. That is today is now as clinical research. So the first can be done by PhD. It's not necessary to be a physician for that. However, a physician scientist can be the clue and the bridge just begin between the basic scientists and the physician, those that are involved in clinical research. So for me, the most important pathway that we need is that the disease-oriented research that is made by physician scientists, and this is the way to understand the pathogenesis, the treatment of a disease. The clinical research, they at the beginning put this as the 4 P's, but the last P, that is poverty, is not true anymore, because in this case, as I can see that the physician scientists that earn more money are those that done the clinical research, because I'm very involved with the pharmaceutical industry. The model for all of us is Fauci. So Anthony Fauci is when you examine his life, you can see he passed by all the steps of an idealistic career for a physician scientist, because he began with the patient, and then he passed to the lab, and then he back to the patient. That is something that many others have done, and in this way they have really contributed to important problems in medicine. So I want to list some of the important reasons why to choose this career as physician scientist. Physician scientist is unique because you have unique capabilities, because you are able to understand the basic science and also to speak the language with clinicians, and you can work very comfortable between the two worlds, and that is something that is unique. So that is a clue to understand why a physician scientist can do significant solutions to the problems in medicine. But it's clear, for instance, in the case of the disease-oriented research, that is not for money, because it is very well known that those that we choose the MD PhD pathway, we had a little bit less than those that dedicate only to the clinical research, for instance. So we know that we can dedicate less time, but one of the most important, I think, is the main reason is because in this way we can understand very deep the problems of our patients. So that is something that I can reveal each day when I see patients that for the colleagues that are not involved in research, sometimes it's very difficult to understand some clinical problems, even if they are very good specialists, because only when you are in research you can be prepared to solve, for instance, unexpected situations in particular clinical case, and also to have the expertise to solve some complex problems. So I have the experience now that are also involved in the formation of the PhD, that the best clinician, at the beginning, they don't have clear that how they can do research. But after some years of clinical experience, they conclude if they want to be a better specialist, they have to do research. And in I have many cases of very good, even I can say, the best specialists in clinical fields, they arrive to us to do a PhD formation because they conclude that is the best way to have solution for the patients. So this is the idealistic process of biomedical research, but indeed it's very real. And one of the best examples is with the HB infection that begins with the patients, the unexpected case again. So unexpected case of Kaposi sarcoma that begin to see by doctors, and they ask to be biomedical research. And the first one is the epidemiological studies. But after the epidemiological studies, they were forced to contact the biomedical research. And one very good example of the need of proximity between the biomedical research lab and the hospital is what happened in Paris when the infectious disease specialists Luc Montaguet to study the ganglion biopsy of the patient. And that was the clue and the key to identify the retrovirus that was the cause of the HIV infection. So this is a very good example of what happened when there are very good proximity between hospital and biomedical research institute. And then, of course, after these basic studies, they can give some clue to study candidate for drugs, and at the end, you have to test that in clinical trials. So you can see here how, in the case of HIV infection, all these steps were passed, and what's very important, the connection with biomedical scientists. But I want to emphasize that the science is a teamwork. And I can give some examples with our own work. And in that case, one of the most important contribution of our group in the case of human toxoplasmosis is how we can prove that the greatest severity in South American patients were due to the virulent strains, to the virulence of the South American strains. And this begins with clinical observations. Again, you begin with the clinical observation. I have patient, I see patient, is good, I had a consultation, I still see patient, and this is the source for all the project that follows. So here, this was our first contribution in an international work, contributing with the clinical observations, and this ended in this publication in Lancet, and also was the first time that my university appeared in a Lancet publication. So it was very important, and for all the studies that follows, we begin to do studies in humans, but also in intermediate. So the necessity also, again, to work in a multidisciplinary way, and to have a network of work. And we also begins to work with European groups and the group of Lyon in France to doing serotyping. So you can see that is very different approach. So you begin with clinical, then you pass to the molecular methods, but also immunological methods. So again, it's the necessity to use different tools to analyze, to find solution with the problems, and also working with veterinary. The veterinarian is very important in zoonosis. So it was very important to work with veterinarians, and one of the most important was to work with chickens. So we collect samples from chickens, and we sent to Dr. Dewey. That Dr. Dewey is an authority in veterinarian researcher, and he with him we analyzed which were the strains of Toxoplasma, and then all the studies that he collecting samples for worldwide, and in this publication in the PNAS, one of the most scientific journals, and for us was we were very proud that our samples were part of this global study, and all these at the end can through the interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and international collaboration, and in this that is part now of our knowledge, is that the parasite population of Toxoplasma have a biphasic geographical pattern. So you can see all that work, all that years of studies, and finally in something that can appear in a textbook and very in one sentence, but it's the result of many years of international collaboration, but it's a fundamental understanding in the case of toxoplasmosis why the South American strains are more virulent than those that are found in other parts of the world. So this no doesn't end in this, because we all the virulence factors that were related with the more virulence of the strains were analyzed all in mouse model, but there were not studies in human samples. So again, that is one of the reasons we need to the countries where this disease are prevalent are the necessity can be studied by the researchers of the same countries. So here was the first study in human samples analyzing the virulence factors, and we can prove that in human this was something relevant to the infection. So also again is this doesn't end in that. We begin to analyze the immune response and the local immune response, and this was the first work analyzing the cytokines. But I have to we have to enrich the clinical and biomedical research with basic science, and one of the most important preoccupations when I was in Colombia, and because we lack of resource funding, and one facility was to have computers, and we begin to work in bioinformatics, and this end in that we developed a very good experience, and we was pioneer in Colombia in the bioinformatics field, because I think this was a tool that can help us to do basic science. And this end, at the end, you can see here this paper where we found by using bioinformatics vaccine candidates that we test in human samples. So we don't remains only to do bioinformatics in the computer analysis, but we end in analyzing how these results of the bioinformatics can be applied for humans. So that is also again an example that the importance of physicians doing basic science. And also we work in the cloning of parasite proteins, and the bioinformatics funded some of this work, and we finally arrived to have the cover of the most important journal in biomedical science in Colombia by analyzing the genes that were responsible for the resistance in Toxoplasma. But one of the most significant contribution of my group is in applied science, and we have worked a lot in the analysis how the parasite, the protozoa, are transmitted by food and water, and the preoccupation and the interest to found efficacious preventive measure made that we begin to do that this work that was the first in Colombia and to analyze the parasite, because normally in food microbiology that is done for bacteria, but for parasites there are a lack of tools to analyze. So we developed a method to analyze the parasites in water and also in food. And again, the interdisciplinary collaboration and in this is a new method for the detection of parasite in water that now is part of the regulation of in my country, in Colombia, and was selected by one of the best technological innovation in 2021. But I want to end by showing you the importance of undergraduate research. So this is something that is very important for a research group. So one of the first things I did arriving to my university to create an elective course. So the students were voluntary to choose this elective course, and this was he was my first student. I began with only one student that chose but that is incredible is the work he made was a meta-analysis, and this meta-analysis was many years later very important when we developed the guidelines, the evidence-based guidelines, and the recommendation about how diagnostic tests to use in toxoplasmosis. And this student is now a professor in gynecologist, but I am very proud that the last year he obtained the best researcher in this. This is the most important in Colombia. It's in Cali. They have a lot of technological development, technological development, and he won the prize to the best researcher. So I am very proud that this is the result of this process of formation of new researchers. And another student that here now she's a resident in anesthesiology, and she contributes with this was the first study. You can see it's published in American Journal of Ophthalmology, so in very important journals in the undergraduate during the undergraduate period. And this is also again one example of the important work that can be done by undergraduate students. And Christian and Juliet, they did this work that is still one of the most cited, is in Spanish. It's incredible. It's in Spanish, but it's very because it's one of the few studies case control studies in pregnant women, very well done. And the last meta-analysis was qualified very well by his design, and was made by undergraduate students. And again, was very important during the development of evidence-based guidelines, because these funded the recommendations for prevention in toxoplasmosis for pregnant women. So you can see that undergraduate students did significant, important contributions. Again, this is another example, with Ana Carolina now, because this was the first in Colombia, and by doing newborn screening, by using this technology of Western blot, and is a very highly seated. But this work is one of my favorite works made by undergraduate students, because Carlos is intensivist today. Cristina is professor in surgery. But the importance of this work is because undercover discovered that a procedure that was used by ophthalmologists was indeed iatrogenic. So now this procedure, that is the subconjunctival injection of steroids during ocular toxoplasmosis, has been banned, because this work was made by undergraduate students with a very important clinical practice consequence. So I again, is the example that undergraduate students can do significant contributions. Also, this work that was published in Ocular Immunology, and with many undergraduate students, led by Gilberto. Today, Gilberto is neurosurgeon in Dubai, and was very significant for the quality of life of patients with toxoplasmosis. But I think the top of all the undergraduate students, you can see, is Cristian Lopez. Cristian Lopez won many prizes during the School of Medicine, in national and international, and he won the best work in Latin American research for students. And he is now a clinical epidemiologist. He worked with the pharmaceutical industry. He earned very well his life. Again, the clinical research is very well paid, and but I think this is one very good example that what an undergraduate student can do. And but this doesn't end, and you can see during across all the years, many students have participated in my research group and won international prize. But this is very special for me, because it's one example and important for medical education, how medical students, by doing research, also contribute with social problems, to solve social problems, very large social problems, because in this case, in this infection, is involved also the pets that are abandoned, and the problem of zoonotic disease. And with the war, with this war, but that end in an international publication, they learn a lot about epidemiology, public health, parasitology, and immunology. So even with about ophthalmology. So this is a very example how the research can contribute and strongly to the medical education. So this part of the now my elective course has developed. And again, thank you very much to the International Medical Student for the organization of the last year, the World Conference. And my students were very happy, and also for them was a significant experience to participate and we will see what they will do in the future. But I think here is possible to conclude that undergraduate medicine students can do significant and transformative research. So thank you very much for your attention about telling about this story. And this story ends in the chapter of many books has contributed. And this is the International Encyclopedia of Public Health. And this book is contribution of many authors, but half of the authors come from the Universidad de Quindío, and it's the first book in molecular biology in Colombia, made for Colombian universities. And but my book, final book, where I put all my experience in the particular topic of parasitology, is this book, and it's used in Latin America. And it's for that reason that all this story that begins with one book was the book of Gabriel Toro, and in this book that is counting all these stories during this research life. So thank you very much for your attention. All that I show is the result of interdisciplinary and teamwork. And this is one picture where my group has been ground, and I have a lot of students, disciples that are now in many countries, and they continue disseminating the passion for parasitology and tropical medicine and biomedical research. So thank you very much.
No, thank you so much, Dr. Gomez. That was a fantastic presentation. I like how you highlighted, so much about your career, even starting all the way from the beginning. You can tell like you were really like a trailblazer in a lot of this. Like there are many firsts that you've done, and it's quite an accomplishing career. That being said, like looking at
the clinical is please follow. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So like looking at, like your extensive career and a lot of the success that you've had, and especially in terms of mentoring students, is there anything that you look back on that you feel like particularly proud of, or anything that stands out for you?
I am proud about my students. You can see, I think for one educator is the most significant to the regular you have is to see the success of your students and disciples. But I think this is very important that in the research you are not alone. You cannot do research work alone, and always is necessary to have that interaction. And the students are a source of inspiration also of new ideas. And so I sometimes I talk about the experience in France that the National Institute of Research was in France. The researcher can have a career only in institutes of research without not they don't need to be in university to do course. But why they see in the National Institute of Research that the lack of students also give as consequence a lack of renewal in the research work. So it's a bidirectional, and the contribution is from each part. The students is feeding to the mentor with their ideas, and also with the inspiration and motivation to do new things, to test new avenues of research. And that is very important for the growth of the science.
Certainly. And like when you're working with medical students, because I know that you've provided that mentorship for many different people, is there anything that stands out to you about like certain medical students that you've worked with that you're looking for with as being a mentor? Like in I'm asking this in terms of, like students who might be interested in looking for a supervisor or interested in that. Like, is there anything that stands out to you or anything that you're looking for?
Yeah, yeah. One significant problem with the medical students is the lack of time because they had a lot of duties. So it's very important that the faculties and the School of Medicine have this possibility of elective. I can show you how during a research project they can learn a lot. They can consolidate many knowledge and to put in practice. Even more that theoretical course, a long, very sometimes there are lack of significance for the student because they don't see how is the application. But when they participate in research project, they can put in exercise all that knowledge. So I think a strategy to do the elective course in topics that are of the interest for the student. They have the possibility to choose that and also to have the time for that, and that this can be part of of course the qualifications and the evaluations, and certainly that it can motivate. And but I think the most significant is a very important way to learn. So this is one of the things I think need to be promoted.
Certainly. And as you were saying, like getting involved in research just makes you an even better physician, just having that deeper
Yeah.
understanding. And like I know that you've done a lot of work, especially with, toxoplasmosis and a lot in infectious disease. Is there anything that you're hoping to see like moving forward in your field?
Yeah, of course. Infectious disease seems to be a big challenge for humanity. We passed the pandemic, and this was the opportunity to see how the research was very important to do all the measures that in each country were necessary to to fight against the problems of the pandemic. So yes, there are a lot of work to do in the field of infectious disease, in the basic science. So, but also in epidemiology and to consolidate also a network of laboratories that can be ready for the next pandemic. Hopefully we expect that will be not very soon, and also that the new tools that will have to reduce the possibility of pandemics such those that we lived during the last 3 years. So we again, that is important. It's a message for, I think, for the society in general. The research is a necessity for every society. So something is the science thing like a luxury, and something that is only for rich countries. But in this, it's essential. It's essential for, I think, for the survival of the humanity, because it's the only way to find the solutions that we are needing. Again, with the climate change, it's a very big challenge, and here we are. I am seeing the consequence. Seeing something like I never imagined here in my city to see malaria in urban setting. So that is something incredible to live to see this.
Certainly, and you're absolutely right, especially like over the pandemic with all the uncertainty and hopefully there's a lot that we've learned from it, but it's turning to those experts who are doing the research to help guide everybody around the world. And I know that you've done so much in your career. Do you have any future plans or anything that you're hoping to get involved with?
Yeah, as you say, yeah, the research is fun. Is that give a lot of pleasure because you are always. It's very hard. Just, I'm very busy all the time because again I have a lot of students. But yes, for the future plans, we are now very interested in the effect of toxoplasma infection in brain and the association with mental disease. Was unexpected to see. At the beginning, I was very skeptical about the role in toxoplasma in mental disease, but now we had very very big enough evidence that the toxoplasmosis have a role in mental disease. So there are a lot of new challenges to do to understand how this parasite can lead to a mental manifestation of mental disease. So we had a lot of work to do for the next years.
Yeah. Well, as someone doing like my training in psychiatry at the moment, I'm really looking forward to
Yeah,
reading what you put out there, and
this is
very very exciting
unexpected
stuff.
brain bridge. Yeah,
Certainly, yeah, and
parasitology and psychiatry. My doctor is in psychiatry resident, and I never imagined that parasitology can something to do with psychiatry. And you can see, again, it's the research that give unexpected link. So yes, it's a very exciting field to develop for the next years.
yeah, very much so. And I'm sure your students are very lucky to have you help guide them the way there. I want to thank you again for your time and giving this presentation and answering all the questions, and just like sharing your research experiences and your insights with all of us in the audience here. I'd also like to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of Research Pathways, and I'm hoping to see you all again at our next episode. So if people are, interested in this type of content, interested in learning more about research, subscribe to the channel, leave us a like, give us a comment what you want to see. And looking forward to seeing everybody next
You're
one.
welcome, and thank you very much for your time with the Journal of Medical Students. For the researchers, when we are and we reach the level of professor, sometimes we misvalue the role. You can see. Oh, it's a.
Oh, I can hear you
You,
again. I think we lost some connection, but thank you again, Dr. Gomez, for your time.
thank you, Leah. Thank you very much.
All right.